learning more about Mitch McConnell and just how excited he was on January 6th because he felt that the January 6th riots would discredit Donald Trump and finally rid the Republican Party of the Trump era. But boy, was he mistaken.
The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people.
Now, this is the latest revelation coming out of the book that was published by the New York Times reporters. We've been talking about it for the last several weeks. The title of the book is "This Will Not Pass." It's forthcoming. And here's what we know about the latest reporting about it. I feel exhilarated by the fact that this fellow finally totally discredited himself, McConnell told Jonathan Martin, one of the authors of a new book called "This Will Not Pass," when asked about his feelings on the violence and the rioters, again, January 6th. Trump, the Kentucky Republican, said, was pretty thoroughly discredited by this. He put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger, McConnell said. Standing in a doorway of the Capitol after midnight couldn't have happened at a better time. Now that night, with the attack seared in his mind, McConnell took a strident tone against Trump and his desire to slash his influence going forward, according to the book. Citing the 2014 midterm elections where McConnell attacked some of the fringe far-right candidates, he said he would take Trump and his ilk down in the 2022 midterms. McConnell tells his staff that Trump is a despicable person and says he will take him on politically. "We crushed the sons of bitches," he said to Martin, according to the book. "And that's what we're going to do in the primary in 2022.
Yeah.
Things didn't work out that way, did they, McConnell?
So there's a couple of super important things here, and then there's a couple of interesting things that I haven't seen anybody else talk about. So number one, Mitch McConnell despises Donald Trump. Okay, so that's absolutely clear. Number two, Mitch McConnell apparently can be wrong. I've said this before. I think Mitch McConnell is probably the best politician of my lifetime. And I hate to say that. I think he's a terrible, terrible person, but he runs circles around Democrats. He runs circles around everybody else in the Republican Party. And he does that, by the way, by collecting $1 billion from donors. A lot of the senators are still on his side despite all the pressure from Trump because he gives them money. He gives them millions of dollars that he raised. So for him to be this tactically wrong is a bit stunning. And it goes to show you that we live in interesting times. I've never seen McConnell be this wrong. And
well, look,
yeah.
So to be fair to McConnell, which I never thought I would say, although we do like to be fair to everyone, even those we disagree with, it's hard to believe that after what transpired that day, that a huge portion of the country would not only be supportive of it, but would provide cover for it. Because it was shocking, it was such a shocking event, right? I mean, look, this country has had many shocking events in its history, and I don't want to minimize that. But to see all those videos of Trump supporters breaking into the Capitol, treating law enforcement the way they did that day, with brutality, with force, with violence, you would assume that even the most ardent Trump supporters would have a line that they wouldn't want these people to cross, but they crossed it and Trump supporters supported it. And so I don't really begrudge McConnell for the miscalculation here, because I think he was really under the assumption, the naive assumption, now in retrospect, that no, people actually do want to protect our democracy. They do value our democratic system. And this is going to be the final, this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. But it didn't end up working out that way.
All right, well then I'll give myself credit because I never once thought that Republican voters were going to abandon Trump for that. You go back and watch all the videos from the time, and I never once thought there was a 1% chance of conviction after impeachment for this. The Republicans the Republican voters love Trump, but just as importantly, they hate the establishment. And that's what McConnell can't understand. That's what no one in Washington can understand because they are the establishment. Most of all, the reporters, they just keep they look at the polls and politicians come in anywhere from 7% popularity to they peak at 15%. The media is not that different. I mean, the mainstream media is generally loathed in this country, but they see those polls and they go, we don't believe it. Because in their world, everybody loves them, right? They live in Washington, they're in that bubble, and they're like, what, Bobby likes me, or Susie likes me? No, this poll must be wrong. It's not wrong. The American people, and the right wing particularly, despise the establishment. And that's why right now, as we stand, Mitch McConnell is the single most unpopular politician in the country. Because the left hates him, rightfully so. And now the Republicans hate him because he crossed Donald Trump. So McConnell and Trump fought, and for the first time, McConnell lost. And that is now, he is now back down, and he is saying, okay, Trump's fine, it's okay, and he's backpedaling out of the room.
And remember,
it's amazing.
McConnell helped to construct I don't want to say rigged, but he helped to construct certainly like a judicial system that is very much leaning toward the Republican Party in every way, helping to confirm hundreds of federal judges under Trump's watch, helping to bulldoze through the Supreme Court nominees that Trump had chosen during his term. I mean, look, McConnell, it's interesting because he helped to construct the very system that's now very likely gonna work against him. And I kind of like that twist to this whole narrative, right? I do enjoy that, although we end up suffering along with it.
Yeah, there's actually a giant, to that point, Anna, there's a giant silver lining here. At least one person in our lifetime has defeated the establishment. It sucks that the one person who defeated it is even worse than them, is a bigger maniac, even more corrupt, even bigger liar.
Is that a silver lining?
No, it is a silver lining, because what if you did the same exact strategy as Trump, but you weren't a monster?
Yeah,
like you could do it from the left, and you could call out their corruption, you could drain the swamp and actually mean it. Though our number one opponent, if I'm being honest, and I hate to say it, but it's the mainstream media. They're the ones who always block us from getting our message to the American people. And we don't have the money and the celebrity that Trump had. We don't have the money that McConnell has or that Pelosi has. But if a progressive ever breaks through in the mainstream media and bullies everyone that should be bullied, hey, you took a bribe, you took a bribe. Hey, that's $2 million there, $1 million there. Overall, Pelosi, you've taken $1 billion. McConnell, you've taken $1 billion. What the hell did ExxonMobil give you that money for? Well, et cetera, et cetera. If you were, and then you actually use your power, how do I know it's possible? Because it's already been done. FDR did it and LBJ did it. Lyndon Johnson and Roosevelt did that exact strategy and it worked perfectly. Now, FDR was a good guy, Lyndon Johnson did it for political reasons, but of course it could work from the left.
Right, and let me also remind you, because it's an important part of the puzzle that I think gets left out of these conversations all the time. FDR was a good guy, generally speaking, right? Everyone's flawed, but he didn't just do things out of the kindness of his own heart.
Yes.
He was pressured by organized labor, and they were incredibly militant. They would take to the streets, things would get bloody. Like, I don't wanna minimize like the bloodshed that led to the pressure toward FDR to make the changes. LBJ was a different story though. I would like to see a good mix of both, right? I would like to see a progressive politician who understands how to wield power the way LBJ did, and also someone who had the right, economic policies that FDR did, right? If we had that kind of leadership, you're right. I think that there is a possibility to break through. But right now, I also agree that our number one enemy isn't just the corporate media, but the corporate media and its close relationship to corporate Democrats. Those are our enemies.